into a bit more detail.
Things can change incredibly quickly.
Taken by surprise.
Have you ever known a moment like this in British politics before? Yes. Cheers.
We'll start with breaking news.
Let's get the latest on the ground.
So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
They want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
Welcome back. You're watching Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. But first, our top stories. The Labour Party has suspended MP Mike Amesbury after new footage emerged that shows him hitting a man in the street. The government says working people won't see higher taxes on their payslip as the Chancellor promises to help strivers in this week's budget. With just over a week to go until the US presidential election, the polls suggest it's still too close to call. And tonight, Donald Trump is holding a rally at Madison Square Garden in New York. You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. And in the next 30 minutes, we'll see what's making the headlines with writer and broadcaster Amy Nickell-Turner and the economics editor of The Spectator, Kate Andrews. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, 3 days to go until the budget. And in a Mirror exclusive, PM Sir Keir Starmer makes a personal promise that his government will make people better off. The Guardian also quotes the Prime Minister, saying Labour will defy populism and embrace the harsh light of fiscal reality. Fears Labour budget could wreck economy is the headline in The Express, which says it's reflecting fears expressed by former Bank of England Governor Lord King. The Eye, meanwhile, says there's a budget warning for Labour as voters grow more cynical about politics and politicians since the general election. The suspension of Labour MP Mike Amesbury over an incident in the street where a man was punched is top story in the Mail. The Metro leads with the mystery surrounding the death of a woman who fell 90 feet from a tower block in Leeds. Her unborn baby survived. As the US election looms, the Financial Times says the growing threat of more international trade barriers is stoking fears that the global economic recovery could be under threat. And The Star says we're in for freakishly good weather over Halloween. The headline, Trick or Heat. I see what they did. A reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. And tonight we are joined by Amy Nickell-Turner and Kate Andrews. Welcome to both of you. Let's start with the front page of The Guardian and a message from Sir Keir Starmer taking on his critics regarding the budget. It's time to choose a path. Kate, what path might that be?
It's a difficult path, and the Prime Minister is giving a speech in the West Midlands to try to make the best out of the decisions that are about to be announced to the public on Wednesday. It's amazing that we're actually approaching the budget finally, because there's been briefings around this budget speculation for months now, and we understand that it is possibly going to be one of the biggest tax hiking budgets since George Osborne or even Gordon Brown. The speech that Keir Starmer is giving is talking about embracing fiscal reality, acknowledging the tough decisions that have to be made, but there is a positive spin on it, something that Labour has been criticised for not doing for months now, talking down the economy, that doom and gloom narrative. Instead, he's saying, we're going for long-term growth, we're going to invest, we're going to reform, we're ultimately going to make you better off down the road. And I think he's giving this speech because he knows that when the budget drops on Wednesday, there are going to be some very difficult things that Labour has to navigate. Probably the biggest one in terms of their manifesto and pledges already made is that we are expecting the Chancellor to hike employer national insurance. A lot of people think that goes against the spirit of Labour's manifesto, if not actually going against the manifesto pledge not to hike national insurance. The promise around not taxing working people has even been rolled back. Rachel Reeves has admitted actually working people are going to experience some kinds of tax hikes in certain circumstances. Not all working people will be exempt from that. They have a lot they're going to have to defend. So the Prime Minister's trying to get on the front foot, and he'll like this Guardian front page, taking on the critics. This is the more positive spin, and some other of these headlines we're going to see a slightly more negative spin on the Prime Minister's speech.
Amy, what are your thoughts? Is embracing fiscal reality code for austerity?
I think that's unfair. I think that whatever way we slice it, it's becoming clearer and clearer that they really do mean it, that they are not going to tax working people in the sense that they really aren't going to touch VAT, income tax, or national insurance. That is pretty much a certain now. But they are going to tax assets. So that will be capital gains, inheritance tax, and hiking tax there, which I think completely fits to their pledge that they are not going to be taxing working people more. But this is a whole new... But
national insurance is something that they're looking at,
the employer
contributions
side of national insurance, rather than what you take. So when you get your pay slip, there's not going to be more tax taken from that. I think that's pretty certain now. But there has been a lot of... The speculation's been rife, and the negativity towards this budget. I think 70% of people at the moment are fearing this budget, but that's ultimately part down to the communications we had from the Prime Minister. He was warning us of what a terrible, harsh reality this budget's going to be. So to hear him be a bit more positive, on top of Rachel Reeves this weekend saying this will be the greatest economic moment in Labour history, it's like, oh, you finally found a bit of confidence in what you're about to do, because up until now it's been a lot of doom and gloom.
Take us to the Express, Kate, and their headliner, which is one he might not appreciate as much as the Guardian. Fears Labour budget could wreck the economy. And this coming off the back of comments from former Bank of England Governor Mervyn King. This is the other side of the coin, and this is what Labour is bracing for. Labour's new line, as Amy says, is that your pay packs, your slip isn't going to change. The number on that slip isn't going to change. I think the big question for workers is it going to go up? Because if you are taxing employers more, are they going to have as much cash to give you pay raises in the future? That's one of the reasons this is breaking the spirit of the manifesto. Is it really in the benefit of working people? Another huge concern, of course, especially post that mini budget from Liz Truss, is what happens when you try to borrow a lot of money and the markets notice and they demand a better return for their investment, and you have to have interest rates higher for longer. Mortgage rates go up. And this is one of the warnings from the former governor of the Bank of England, Mervyn King. Rachel Reeves is planning on borrowing billions of more pounds. We don't know how much more. The changes to the fiscal rules, something that was also ruled out in the manifesto but is happening, will allow her, we expect, to borrow up to £50 billion more. That doesn't mean she'll go all the way, right? It doesn't mean that she'll take it that far. But the decision to borrow more money means that A, she has to convince markets that it's a pound well borrowed, that it's a good project. B, she has to be prepared for interest rates to be higher for longer. That's not very politically popular. Doesn't mean they won't keep coming down, but it might be a slower process. But ultimately, she has to be really careful about those debt servicing payments. At the moment, last year, the UK paid double just to service the debt. No new hospitals, no new nothing for that. Paid double than what it spends on its defence budget.
If you keep borrowing, that figure is going to be even more painful to tackle. These are the tough decisions that Reeves has to make, and she wants to invest. And there's kind of universal agreement now that there should be more investment in capital projects, infrastructure, roads, energy. But where you find the money and doing it through the Treasury, it's an expensive project.
I think the only way you can really do that is through borrowing, ultimately. But Rachel Reeves has been clear about this whole tweaking of the fiscal rules so that borrowing won't be just a liability, it will be an asset to incentivise that investment that we need. And I think maybe that's why a lot of people were saying it was in the spirit of Attlee to say this will be the greatest economic moment in Labour history, because maybe that is a nod to being admittedly in great debt, but then borrowing and growing your way out of that in the end. So I think this is what they're focusing on, the long term rather than the short term. But it's true that the last paper we looked at, Keir Starmer was quelling the critics, and we're straight into Express, and we're looking head on at the critics here. But again, I think Labour's communication strategy on this has not helped them in the fact that they created a lot of these fears that people have. But it is true that one of the things I noticed was, yes, OK, you're not going to raise income tax, but they're also not moving the threshold. So once again, we have this fiscal drag situation where more people will be sucked into higher tax brackets. And I think that was disingenuous on their part, because when the Conservative government did that last year, Rachel Reeves was the first to criticise by saying you're thieving from working people. And now they're guilty of doing that themselves. But I think wreck the economy, we'll wait and see.
We will wait and see.
I don't think it's going to be...
Look, I think we also can't... It's a danger to exaggerate, right? Because the chances of this going the same way as the mini-budget, there are lots of reasons to think it's going to be very different. She's actually briefed the markets to tell them what's about to happen. Yeah. They have the opportunity to prepare. Interest rates were surging when Liz Truss was in office. They are slowly but surely coming down now. But the difference is when you borrow money with interest rates where they're at now, they're no longer on the floor like they were in the 2010s. They're historically normal, but they're much higher now. This makes it a very expensive and a riskier project. And Rachel Reeves, even if she gets this right, will have walked a tightrope to do it. If you fall on the wrong side of it, you don't have to wreck the economy by any means to still cause a lot of pain, as we saw during that mini-budget.
The Eye bringing in a different line, and that being that voters are growing more cynical, especially since the election, which speaks to what we were saying about broken promises and perhaps not sticking to the spirit of the manifesto. Amy?
Well, exactly. So here we see that people are completely... Trust in politics has declined even more so since the general election. And I think that was ultimately spurred on by the winter fuel payments. The way the news was delivered, I don't think it was clear. I don't think Labour did a good job in pointing out how many people could apply for pension credit. There were ways to solve that. Instead, it was just... It just seemed like something that the media could easily get their claws into and present in the worst way possible. Labour freezes pensioners, which I think that was the point when the trust in the party started to decline. I think without that, we wouldn't be seeing as many problems reputationally.
Amy, we're going to have to leave it there just because of time. Got to take a break. Do stay with us. Michelle Obama's plea to meld voters as the race for the White House heats up on its final stretch before Election Day. We'll be taking a look at that when we come back.
This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom.
A date which will live in infamy.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Tear down this wall.
Today, our very freedom came under attack.
We are the change that we seek.
It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president.
We're going to make America great again.
This is a country of possibilities.
There have been 46 presidents of the United States. Who will be next in the White House? Get the full story first on Sky News.
Independent United Kingdom.
These last few years have seen some huge stories. And these stories have been driven by politics, by politicians, the people in power.
You must stay at home.
And it's my job to figure out how these decisions made by politicians impact all of us in our everyday lives.
This is the worst thing I've ever been through in my life.
People turn up here with their child stuff in a black sack and just say, don't want to.
And that is what it is. It's first-class poverty.
Is this an example of the welfare state failing?
We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
These are stories that affect us all. Millions of children are now having to catch up. Some stories have changed all of our lives. Because like the residents, the staff are being infected. Politicians, they make decisions all of the time, and it's our job to hold them to account. I wonder if you will take this opportunity to apologise to those families. But in the end, the real power doesn't actually lie with the politicians. The real power lies with the people. I'm Nick Martin. I'm the People and Politics correspondent at Sky News.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, writer and broadcaster Amy Nickell-Turner and the economics editor of The Spectator, Kate Andrews. Let's take a look at the Mail front page. And this story regarding the backbencher Mike Amesbury. Pictured there, some footage showing him, it seems, attacking a man on the street. But we know now that he has been suspended by the party and he's cooperating with police investigations. Kate.
Yes, Mike Amesbury is no longer counted as a Labour MP, as he has been suspended, and the investigation is ongoing. You know, this is one of the very few downsides of having such a large majority, is that you have so many MPs to handle, and like the Tories had back in 2020 onwards, there are going to be moments where you're going to have to deal with, you know, we don't want to speculate, but what seems like potentially quite bad behaviour here. The video footage is not nice, and you're going to have MPs, many of whom, you know, the public won't be that familiar with, that you're going to have to deal with from time to time. This is now Labour's struggle. It's probably not a Tory struggle as much anymore.
I mean, yeah, we don't really know what went on, but we know what happened. It's very hard to find anything that would excuse the kind of behaviour that we've seen. And the interesting thing is that if there is a by-election in this seat, he's the MP for Runcorn, then the budget doesn't go as planned. The second most popular party in Runcorn was Reform. So I think maybe this could play into the hands of Reform, and they could have their eye on this seat. Did he end up not continuing to be the MP for Runcorn? But MPs, bad behaviour, I mean, we have been here before on plenty of different examples, and this is just the latest.
Kate, take us stateside. The election hotting up, just over 8 days to go, and the big guns are being brought out Michelle Obama.
Indeed, both Obamas, the former president and his wife, are out on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris in those key swing states. The U.S. election is probably going to come down to about 7 states, and the votes across them, the candidates are making their final pitch. One of the big messages, both from the former president and from Michelle Obama, are 2 young men. Because if you look at the demographic shifts, it's really quite fascinating that you have more white women polling that they're going to vote for Harris than perhaps in previous elections, but you actually have an increasing number of white and black men saying they're going to vote for Donald Trump. And one of the messages that the Obamas are really pushing is to those men to really think hard and think twice before they cast their vote. Of course, Donald Trump is out on the other side hitting all those key swing states too. And I think what's most fascinating about this election is look at any of the major pollsters. None of them are calling it. None of them are calling it so close.
Amy, you've got about 20 seconds.
I think you hit the nail on your head when you said that she's brought out the big guns, because it doesn't come much bigger than Michelle Obama. But her focus was a lot on reproductive rights, and I think that's one of the main messages that Kamala is going to push and push and push, because it's something that Trump cannot appeal. They can't. Complete opposite view. So if you're a woman with a focus on reproductive rights, you're definitely going to be looking at this campaign.
Amy and Kate, thank you very much for the moment. We'll see you in the next hour. Let's take a look at the weather in the meantime. Well, Monday is looking fairly grey and damp for most of Britain and Ireland, but high pressure will build later this week and the weather should be fairly quiet. By dawn on Monday, cloud and patchy rain will have pushed across the whole of Britain and Ireland. Most places will have a breezy but fairly mild start to the day. It'll be cloudy for many of us with some hill fog and patchy rain. The rain will be most persistent around the western hills, and some central and eastern areas may stay largely dry. A few breaks should develop in the cloud at times, most likely in the south, but for many of us, the skies will stay rather gloomy. The winds will be fairly brisk at first, but will slowly ease as the day wears on. Then on Tuesday, an area of high pressure will start to spread across us, and the weather should quieten down. Coming up next on Sky News at 11, Labour suspends one of their MPs after he's filmed punching a man.
The most significant day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
You want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
This is Sky News at 11 o'clock. The headlines this evening. Labour suspends one of its MPs, Mike Amesbury, after new images emerge of him punching a man in the street. The Prime Minister pledges no return to austerity as the Chancellor promises to help strivers in this week's budget. Donald Trump gets his Madison Square Garden moment as the former president takes centre stage on the campaign trail in New York.
זכר כובדכם.
Benjamin Netanyahu is heckled during a speech in Jerusalem. He says Israel's attack on Iran this weekend has met all objectives. Georgia's pro-Moscow ruling party claims electoral victory as the country's president says it was the victim of a Russian incursion. And we'll have a look at the front pages in our press preview at 11:30. We take you straight now to Elon Musk speaking at a rally for Donald Trump in New York. Let's listen into what he has to say.
What a great group of people.
All right, I've only got one question for you, and then I'm getting out of here because this is your stage. But we set up Doge.
Yes.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. We're going to get the government off your back and out of your pocketbook. And America's just not just going to be great. America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing. Now, you guys are awesome. Honestly, this is like... Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of positive energy that America is all about. Yeah. USA, 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 USA. Wah! Yes. Now, I have something I want to ask you to do, though, because obviously we're somewhat preaching to the converted in this stadium, but there's a lot of people out there who need to vote for President Trump. Okay, so this is a real battle. This is a real election battle. So you need to get friends and family to vote. Make sure they vote early. This is important. We're going to be putting up a scorecard, okay? An early vote scorecard, state by state, county by county. What is the scorecard? Vote early. Vote now. Yeah. Make the margin of victory so big that you know what can't happen. Massive, overwhelming sweep of every swing state, and even some of the states that people don't think are swing states. Massive, crushing victory. Get everyone, friends, family, people on the street. Put the signs up, put the hat on. Let's go. And with that, it is my honor to introduce the First Lady, Melania Trump.
Good evening, New York City. Hello, Madison Square Garden. Our hometown, where architectural symbols of strength, courage, and unity create a canvas for the world's undisputed capital of industry. Where titans of finance, fashion, and entertainment convene among an iconic range of superior design, structures, and artistic accomplishments. And American ingenuity blossoms among determined citizens who race across city streets and between offices, striving for success. It is you who are the heartbeat of this great metropolis. It is you who are the pulse of this America. Yet, New York City is unforgiving. In fact, our lives are complicated even during the best of times. And sadly, today, a declining quality of life coupled with economic instability makes it difficult for business to thrive. Love you too. Crime is on the rise, while public safety diminishes, creating an environment where families with young children choose to relocate. And this story repeats itself from coast to coast across our nation. This is America. For generations, this town has produced America's most fearless leaders, whose mark changed the course of the world. New York City and America needs their magic back. A country of tomorrow that will shape our future and reset expectations for the generations. Envision a wonderful America where the seeds of security, prosperity, and health are sown once again for benefit of our families. Let us charge together with a shared vision that builds on American greatness. Let's seize this moment and create a country for tomorrow, the future that we deserve. And now, please welcome our next Commander-in-Chief, my husband, President Donald J. Trump.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life. I had to start again. Children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today. But the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me.
Well, we see there a rare appearance by the former First Lady, Melania Trump, speaking to the crowd about the current situation that America finds itself in, crime on the rise, public safety diminishing, all thoughts that are negative about the current state of America, which she projects that her husband, the former President Donald Trump, will be able to remedy. So introducing Donald Trump to the stage there, pausing to soak up the adoration from the crowd. And before he entered and Melania introduced him, we heard from Elon Musk, who spoke about the government taxing the public to the hilt, spoke of the Department of Government Efficiency, which he's tipped to run should Donald Trump become the next president of the United States. He spoke of the future being amazing and of the positive energy that was in the room, the energy that's what America is all about. And the crowd were chanting USA continuously in between Elon Musk's thoughts. This is a real election battle, he said. Get your friends, get your family, get everyone to vote. And he emphasised that people should vote early and vote now. He says we've got to make the margin of victory so big, a massive, overwhelming sweep. That's the aim. So Elon Musk being the warm-up man before the man himself, the erstwhile President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, the Republican candidate in this situation. A long list of speakers at this rally, some 30 plus to speak. Earlier we heard from J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's running mate. We also heard from two of Trump's sons who spoke earlier. A bit of a family affair this evening with Melania Trump introducing her husband. She rarely speaks, so interesting to hear her comments and her speech talking about the state of America. Let's listen in to Donald Trump now.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much to a very popular former First Lady, hopefully First Lady again. And I just want to say a very big hello to a special place, New York, and to an incredible arena, Madison Square Garden. Incredible. And then we have all of the people that could fill it up 10 times. You take a look at outside what's going on all the way down to the river, the beautiful, beautiful Hudson River. They're outside watching this now at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They've never had it. And I want to thank Jim Dolan. He's been incredible. He's been just incredible. The job they've done. Thank you. But I'm thrilled to be back in the city I love, and thousands of proud, hard-working American patriots. You're with me. We're all together. We've always been together. And I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I'm here today with a message of hope for all Americans. With your vote in this election, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country. And I will bring back the American dream. We need the American dream to come back home. Our country will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than ever before. This election is a choice between whether we will have 4 more years of gross incompetence and failure, or whether we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. We will achieve success that no one can imagine. We will have the strongest economy, the most secure borders, the safest cities, the most powerful military, the best trade deals, and we will dominate the frontiers of science, medicine, business, technology, and space. And I'm asking you to be excited about the future of our country again. I'm asking you to dream big again. We're going to dream big again. We haven't been dreaming big at all. This will be America's new golden age. It's going to happen quickly, too, very quickly. Every problem facing us can be solved, but now the fate of our nation is in your hands. Next Tuesday, you have to stand up and you have to tell Kamala Harris that you've done a terrible job, that crooked Joe Biden has done a terrible job. You've destroyed our country. We're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. Get out. Get out. You're fired. Early voting is underway in every swing state, and we are setting all-time records. They're voting, I tell you what. I don't want to talk about it. But we have to keep it going. We got to get out and vote. We just have to get out. And who would have thought this was going to happen? We're leading in every swing state. But it doesn't mean a thing. It only means how are we doing at the end. So look, we have 9 days from now. And we're going to defeat Kamala Harris, and we're going to win back the beautiful White House. And we're going to make America great again, and it's going to happen fast. Thank you. In less than 4 years, Kamala Harris has shattered our middle class. She cast the deciding votes that launched the worst inflation in the history of our country. She cost the typical American family over $3,000 in a short period, but over $30,000 over the last 3 years. She killed 50,000 manufacturing jobs this year alone. Now Kamala wants to raise the typical family taxes by nearly $3,000 a year and impose a 33% tax hike on all domestic production. If Kamala Harris gets 4 more years, our economy can never recover. If I win, we will quickly build the greatest economy in the history of the world. Which is what we had in our last term. We will rapidly defeat inflation, and we will very simply make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable. I will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses, and we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our seniors. And I'm announcing a new policy today that I will support a tax credit for family caregivers who take care of a parent or a loved one. It's about time that they were recognized, right? They add so much to our country and are never spoken of, ever, 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 but they're going to be spoken of now. Thank you all very much. I'll also make interest on car loans fully tax deductible, but only for cars made in America. Have to be made in America. And we will achieve energy independence, and we will do something. We want it so badly. We're going to do something. You know what we're going to do? Front row Joes. You know, I got front row Joes here. I got the ladies from North Carolina, number 249. This is the 204, and you look so beautiful. We have a lot of people. They followed us, but we're going to do something. The ladies can tell you what we're going to do. We're going to drill a baby drill. And I will terminate the Green New Scam, and we'll cut your energy prices in half, 50%, within 1 year from January 20th. Is the fake news hearing that? Whoa! Look how much. Wow, that's a lot of fake news. That is a lot of fake news. Look at that. Wow. That's got to be a record, Mr. Speaker. I think that's a record. That is a lot of fakers back there. To bring back millions of jobs, we will give our companies the lowest taxes, the lowest energy costs, the lowest regulatory burdens, and free access to the best and biggest market on the planet. Remember this, if we keep going like this, we won't have the biggest and the best. We won't have a market, we won't have a country. But only for those who make their product here in the USA and hire American workers for the job. And if these companies don't make their products here, then they will pay a very stiff tariff when they send their products into the United States for the privilege of competing with our workers and our now protected companies. We're going to protect our companies. They're not leaving anymore. They're not leaving anymore. We're also going to pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act, meaning if China or any other country charges us 100 or 200% tax or tariff, we will then charge them a 100 or 200% tax or tariff. It's called an eye for an eye. And I will never apologize for defending America. I will protect our workers. I will protect our jobs. I will protect our borders. I will protect our great families, and I will protect the birthright of our children to live in the richest and most powerful nation on the face of the earth. As we rescue our economy, I will also restore our borders. There's never been anything like it. It's bigger than inflation. It's bigger than the economy. What they're doing to our country, they're allowing criminals from all over the world to enter our country. Over the past 4 years, Kamala Harris has orchestrated the most egregious betrayal that any leader in American history has ever inflicted upon our people. She has violated her oath, eradicated our sovereign border, and unleashed an army of migrant gangs who are waging a campaign of violence and terror against our citizens. There has never been anything like it anywhere in the world for any country. Kamala has imported criminal migrants from prisons and jails, insane asylums and mental institutions from all around the world, from Venezuela to the Congo. A lot of people are coming from the Congo prisons. They're coming from all over the world. Over the last month, 181 countries violated our laws. And she has resettled them into your communities to prey upon innocent American citizens. But the day I take the oath of office, the migrant invasion of our country ends and the restoration of our country begins. One of the deadliest and most vicious migrant gangs that Kamala has imported into our country is the savage Venezuelan prison gang. Nice group of people. They got together in prison, the worst prison in the world, they say. It's called Tren de Aragua. And that is taking over apartment complexes and unleashing a violent killing spree all over America, especially in Aurora, Colorado, where we have a governor who's petrified of them, and maybe he should be. But now they've even taken over Times Square. Take a look.
Orders, deadly consequences.
Border crisis. Record high crossings are putting a strain on cities across America. It is a full-blown invasion.
Armed Venezuelan gang members storming an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado.
And when people talk about migrant crime, this is what they're talking about.
San Antonio, Texas, just one of the latest cities to have apartment complexes taken over by members of the Venezuelan gang.
Biden and Harris had created a program to bring them in.
So Donald Trump there playing a video showing the problems of migrants coming into the country and performing acts of criminality. He started by thanking the crowd at the Madison Square Garden crowd by asking them a question after he thanked them. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? He said, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country. I will bring back the American dream. This election, 4 more years of gross incompetence. Do you want that from Kamala Harris? He said. He said that he will bring back the strongest economy, the best military, the best trade deals. He's asking America to dream big again, he said, and this will be America's new golden age. He asked the crowd, told them you have to stand up and tell Kamala you've done a terrible job. Kamala, you're fired, he said, and repeated again, Kamala, you're fired. Words from The Apprentice, his famous line. Well, still with me, Kate Andrews and Amy Nickell-Turner to take us through the papers, but obviously now we're going to talk about Donald Trump's address to that crowd in Madison Square Garden. Kate, your thoughts on what you've heard so far?
It's a lot of repeated talking points. It's actually somewhat surprising. You would have thought that Donald Trump would want to close this election on the economy, but what he really wants to talk about is the U.S.-Mexico border. He clearly thinks that that is the issue that's going to win it. It certainly seems true amongst his faithful and his core supporters, but in terms of those swing voters, it is very clear in America, poll after poll from Gallup, from Pew Research, show that the economy continues to be the #1 issue. But look, Trump is being very confident, and he has been for the past couple of weeks. When he's in a bad mood, when he thinks he's losing, he's vengeful, he's nasty. When he thinks he's on the up, he's funny. And he's been quite funny. He's been doing a lot more rallies. He's really been ramping it up. He's now in Madison Square Garden. He thinks the momentum is with him. I suspect Kamala Harris thinks the momentum's with her, which is why the polls are neck and neck. But no, this is a former president who I think really does believe he could be back in the Oval Office, and you can see it in this speech.
Yeah, OK, he's just started speaking again, so let's go back to Madison Square Garden.
I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered, and we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail. We're going to kick them the hell out of our country as fast as possible. And to expedite removals of Tren de Aragua and other savage gangs like MS-13, which is equally vicious, I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Think of that. That's how far back. That's when they had law and order. They had some tough ones. Think of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. You hear that, Mr. Speaker? Get ready. To target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. And there are lots of them. We don't have the same country anymore, you know that. And you know, when you look at the polls and they say about the economy and they have all these different things, the worst nightmare that we're facing is what they've done to us on our borders. We had the safest border in the world. In fact, there's a chart, which I hope they have, because I didn't tell them I wanted it, but there's a chart that I love very much because I wouldn't be here without it. That's it. I love it. I'm in love with it. I love that chart. Even if it had bad numbers, I would have loved that chart, but it doesn't. It has great numbers. And if you look at the arrow on the bottom, you'll see that was the day I left office. That was the lowest illegal immigration that we've ever had in recorded history, the recorded history of our country. And then look at it. It was like an Elon Musk rocket ship. Look at what happens. Look at what happened after that. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. Under Kamala, America is a sanctuary for criminals and for illegal aliens that are in our country illegally. I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities in the United States. Kamala's gross incompetence disqualifies her from being president of the United States of America. She is grossly incompetent. All you have to do is look at her interviews, look at what she did the other night on fake news, CNN. Just take a look. She couldn't answer a question. She's unfit for office. Everyone knows it. No one respects her. No one trusts her. No one takes her seriously. Everyone knows she is a very low IQ individual. From humiliating our country in Afghanistan to the war in Ukraine, to the nightmare on our border, to her inflation catastrophe, all done in conjunction with Sleepy Joe. But he was largely sleeping, wasn't he? After 4 o'clock, it's time to go to bed. To his and her egregious hurricane response, the worst response in North Carolina and other states since Katrina, but I think it was even worse than Katrina. They haven't even responded in North Carolina. They haven't even responded. There's nobody. They don't see any FEMA. You know why? They spent their money on bringing in illegal migrants, so they didn't have money for Georgia and North Carolina and Alabama and Tennessee and Florida and South Carolina. They didn't have any money for them. They spent all of their money on bringing in illegal immigrants and flying them in by beautiful jet planes. They flew in. We just found out about a year and a half ago. Remember, we said, what's going on? Those planes, a lot of planes going over there. What are they? They would fly them into the middle of our country, our beautiful, beautiful country. And you know what happened? You take a look at Springfield, Ohio. Think of this. Where 30,000 illegal migrants were put into a town of 50,000 people. No place can withstand that. Or take a look at Aurora in Colorado. Colorado is going to vote for us. You know why? Typically, they go a little bit the other way. Of course, with their voting system, I'm not so sure about that. But you know why? Because they tried to throw the leading candidate of both parties, meaning me. I was leading both parties off the ballot. And the people of Colorado, including Democrats, are very angry about it. They are a threat to democracy, to use their term. Isn't it nice to have somebody that's your president that doesn't need a teleprompter? We haven't been on teleprompter for a long time. I haven't been on this teleprompter. No, it is nice. You saw the other day where Kamala got a little stuck on the teleprompter, went a little bad. It stopped on her. You have to be, you know, if you're a politician, you have to be able to handle that. Remember? You have to do the weave, he says. Got to do the... You got to do more than the weave. But it happens a lot as a politician. It happens. I mean, we have so many politicians here, great ones. Really great, because some are not so good, but great ones. And when Newt, or when the Speaker, or when Tommy Tuberville, who's here someplace, the great senator from Alabama, or when any one of our literally 75... By the way, should I introduce all of them by name? I should. Should I? No? Yes? I don't know. It's a lot. Speaker, should I? I don't know. Will they be angry? Yeah, they will. It's a lot of introducing, right? Let's keep going with this speech, right? But, you know, when you have when you're in this profession, I have a friend who wanted to come in. I said, do you like speaking? Well, I do, but I have a great fear of speaking. I said, don't be a politician. If you have a fear of speaking, don't be a politician. But one thing you have to know is that no matter how good your people are that operate this machinery, it's going to break. And you're going to be out there all by yourself a lot. And you got to be able to do so. 3 weeks ago, she was saying there was only 32 days left, right? And she's reading it like, there's 32 days, and it stopped. And she went, there's 32 days. 32, 32, and I was watching. I said, this isn't pretty. 32. She was gone, and then, damn it, it kicked back on. She was gone. We've had it. It happens a lot. And don't forget, you got all those people back there. Now, they don't talk about her. But if that ever happened, it happens all the time. I was campaigning in Ohio for a very, very Bernie Moreno. He's doing a good job. I think he's maybe going to win in Ohio. The problem he's got, his opponent, Brown, Sherrod Brown, he's taking ads in like he's my best friend. He never votes for me. He's not my best friend. Ohio's been very friendly to Trump. We win it all the time by a landslide. But the opponent is taking ads. I got 4 of them. I think we have 4 of them, right? They're taking ads. All of a sudden, they love Trump. We agree with Trump on tariffs. We agree with Trump on the border. We love Trump. And they're Democrats. Their friends calling up, did they switch to the Republican Party? But it happened with Bernie Moreno. I was in Ohio to try and get him over the initial primary hump. And it was 45-mile-an-hour winds, and these suckers were blowing like, you ever try reading a teleprompter where it's moving about 2 feet in each? But I didn't have to worry about that because even worse, they ended up blowing off the stage a lot of it. So I'm now in the first sentence, and I got 28,000 people and millions of people watching on television. I got no teleprompter. And did I do a good job, Mr. Speaker? And he won. And he won, huh? Thank you, Matt. And he won. And so you're up there all alone. We don't go 32, 32, 32. Oh, my God, whatever. Kamala Harris is a train wreck who has destroyed everything in her path. To make her president would be a gamble with the lives of millions and millions of people. She would get us into World War III. We're very close to World War III. If you don't have a smart president, if you don't have a president that gets it, if you don't have a president that is respected by the other side, and they did respect us 4 years ago, they really respected us. Iran was broke. They had no money. Russia wouldn't have played with us at all. Russia would have never gone into Ukraine. Israel, October 7th, would never, ever have happened. Would have never have happened. All those people would be alive right now, those people that were killed on that horrible day. But if you don't have a president that gets it, you know what else you wouldn't have had? You wouldn't have had the most embarrassing day in the history of our country, in my opinion, Afghanistan, the way not that they got out, we were getting out, but we were going to get out with dignity and strength. We got out, an embarrassment, the likes of which this country has never suffered. And because of that, Putin looked at us and they probably figured we were a paper tiger, and he went into Ukraine, and the rest is history. It would have never happened with us. And you wouldn't have had any inflation. We had the best economy, but we had no inflation. And inflation has destroyed a lot of seniors on fixed income, and a lot of people in this room have been virtually destroyed by inflation. You wouldn't have had inflation. They screwed up our energy, and it went up so much. And then they started spending far too much money on things like the Green New Scam, which is just a scam, just a complete scam. They actually admitted that, if you think about it. But she would get us into World War III because she's incompetent, can't do the job, unfit for it, and then all of your sons and daughters will end up getting a little notice. They'll say, Mom, Dad, what is this little green piece of paper? Ay, 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 darling, that's a draft notice. They're drafting you to go and fight in some country that I've never heard of this country before. Oh, no, I don't want my baby to fight. I don't want my baby to be killed. What they did in Afghanistan with those 13 great soldiers, I've gotten to know the parents so well, and leaving all of that equipment behind and leaving Americans behind, and many, many people with no legs and no arms, all because of incompetent people. But we don't want your sons and daughters to get a little draft notice and you have to explain to them what it means. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war. Remember Crooked Hillary? Remember Crooked Hillary Clinton? Crooked Hillary, oh, she was a beauty. During one of our many debates, she said, look at him, listen to him. He's going to start a war. Listen to his rhetoric. He's going to start a war. I said, no, no, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened. 82 years. Other than I finished off ISIS, but that was already started. We had stupid generals like Milley and Mattis, weak, stupid people. But fear not, we have great generals, just not the ones that you see on television all the time. And we wiped them out very quickly. It was going to take 5 years. Mattis said it would take 5 years, and I'm not sure we could do it. It took us like 4 weeks. We have great generals. We have the greatest military in the world. Just a lot of people don't know that. And everybody knows it, but, you know, I saw the other day a report that they issued that if we end up in a war with China, we cannot win. We're not strong enough. So I said to myself, assuming that's true, how stupid are you to put out a report like that? How stupid. Why would you put out a report? Then they'll say, oh, Trump is not truthful. No, I'm smart. You don't put out reports like that. And it's not true. We would kick their ass. It's not true. Our enemies are laughing at her. They want her to win so badly. Oh, they don't want Trump. They don't want Trump. I've made this position a very dangerous one because of that. That's why. It's a very dangerous. You know, if you drive a race car, you have 1/10 of 1% chance of dying. If you ride the bulls, I think the bulls are pretty nasty, right? You have about the same 1/10 of 1% of dying. If you become president of the United States, you got a hell of a shot at dying. I never knew that when I ran. I never thought about it, but here we are. Here we are. And I'm okay with it. And I would rather be here than any place in the world. It's called a very dangerous profession. But if we win, our enemies won't be laughing anymore. They're not going to be laughing. And you know what? The truth is I got along with all of them. I got along with Putin. Ukraine was the apple of his eye, but I said, Vladimir, don't go in. Remember, I ended the pipeline in Europe. I ended the pipeline in Europe. And then when Biden came in, he approved it. But he ended the Keystone pipeline, the one in America. So he got it a little mixed up, didn't he, huh? Nord Stream 2, I said, we're ending Nord Stream 2. Everybody said, what is Nord Stream 2? I said, that's the massive Russian pipeline where they're going to make a fortune, where they're going to Germany and all countries in Europe. So I said, you mean we're fighting to help them with NATO and spending all of that money, and they're paying the person and the group that we're fighting billions of dollars a month? What the hell are we doing? I ended it. It was dead. And Biden came along and he approved it. Weak. Look, 30 years ago, he was not considered smart either. So now he's really not smart. If we win, America will be respected, and even if it's necessary, feared again. It's not the worst word. On issue after issue, Kamala broke it. But I will fix it. We're going to fix it. But we're just not running against Kamala. I think a lot of our politicians here tonight know this. She means nothing. She's purely a vessel. That's all she is. When you see her up there talking about the grass on my front lawn, I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood, and I had grass on my front lawn. Yeah, but we're asking, what would you do to fix the country? And why didn't you do it? You had almost 4 years. Why didn't you do this stuff? Now she's, you know, she's becoming more MAGA than those politicians I just told you about from the different states. She can't put two sentences together. She's just like, she's really just like, in many ways, crooked Joe Biden. And she never said to us, she never told us that Joe was not functioning properly. She should have. Because, you know, we're talking about the life of the most important country in the world. We need very smart people. We're running against something far bigger than Joe or Kamala, and far more powerful than them, which is a massive, vicious, crooked, radical left machine that runs today's Democrat Party. They're just vessels.
We'll leave Donald Trump there, saying it's a massive, crooked machine that's running the Democrat Party, launching into quite personal attack on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, it has to be said. Amy, your thoughts on what you've heard of the speech so far?
I mean, it felt a lot like, well, he was obviously playing to his crowd, and he certainly did wheel out the greatest hits. I think probably the greatest hit being his section on illegal migration. It was the typical emotive language, the most emotive language possible. Criminals, bloodthirsty, savages, aliens, which at the behest of talking about the economy, instead he chooses to focus consistently on these reactionary narratives that he's carved out for himself, saying that the reality of Kamala would be a worse nightmare for the US. He just plays into people's fears. He plays into voters' fears and he exploits them. And I think that's what we've seen again. I think if you transcribed that, though, anyone else saying it, people would say, what? That sounded a bit like, in part, nonsense. But somehow he gets away with it because it's kind of funny, once again.
Was it funny?
There are definitely moments where, love him or hate him, you were laughing. Perhaps for slightly different reasons. I'm not going to repeat the language on Sky News, but when he talked about how America would beat China, it's funny. It's amusing the way he delivers it. And look, when people are laughing, they're asking fewer questions. They're not fact-checking in the same way. They're not thinking, oh gosh, that exaggeration, that number, that claim, was that quite right? It's a very smart tactic from Trump. And the truth is that his supporters, as you can see, they love the way that he's not on script. They love the way that he says what he means, and a lot of Americans do too. Now, some people, half the country will be watching this in horror, half the country will be laughing along. We really don't know which side is going to win Election Day. But as I was saying before, I mean, this is somebody with confidence, and he's not just bringing out some of his greatest hits from this campaign, he's bringing out some of his greatest hits from 2016. He loves to give politicians names. There was one point when he stopped referring to Hillary Clinton with any part of her name and just started calling her crooked. It was, again, a successful tactic for him. The mocking of Kamala Harris, you know, again, for some people that will really rub them up the wrong way, but they're probably already not voting for
after the attempted assassination, I remember that he did say, I will try and create more unity. I will try and not do these personal attacks. Well, that didn't really last long.
It didn't. You're completely right, though. He did make that pledge, and I think he realized quite quickly it didn't suit his campaigning style.
Mm-hmm. After his brush with death, we thought there was a moment of clarity. I mean, one of the areas that he's always thought to be quite strong on, and something that the critics think Kamala is deficient in, and that is the economy. And he did start by asking the crowd, are you better off now than you were when I was in 4 years ago? Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And then we had people chanting USA, USA, USA. So he is sort of trying to steer the narrative towards his strong points and his serious element of his speech.
He is. I mean, the economy is definitely a talking point, but as Amy says, it is not the talking point. That, for him, is illegal immigration. On the economy, he is benefiting from the fact that inflation was so high under President Biden. Trump spent a lot of money, so did President Biden, but the real inflation effect came in during Biden's presidency. When he says there would have been no inflation under me, that's simply not the case. But as all former presidents will know, if something happens on your watch, you do indeed take the blame. He is making that economic pitch, and it's one of the things that makes sense for him to do, because Americans have just said over and over again how unhappy they are with Biden's economy, despite headline quite high growth figures, people don't feel like it's actually impacted their pay packets. Of course, that's been eaten up by inflation.
But then if you take a moment to consider what he wants to do in terms of the illegal migration, it would be incredibly expensive and it would ultimately harm the economy. See also his plans on what he calls the green scam. If he ultimately doesn't take any action on the climate and does what he says he's going to do, that will in turn harm the economy. So really, I think that what he's saying, if it came to fruition, would cause a lot more economic harm that he can't quite see yet.
I think if we're going to talk about the areas of this speech where Trump really will be resonating with a lot of American voters today, that increasing sense of wanting the U.S. to be more isolationist, not to be out of foreign affairs completely, but the fact that he is saying, I don't start wars, I'm not that kind of fighter, that's going to be very popular and go down very well. Kamala Harris has had Liz Cheney on the campaign trail with her, and a lot of people have been asking why. Why push this more neoconservative foreign intervention stereotype when we know Americans are moving in a different direction? I do think, again, he exaggerates talking about a draft.
We must leave it there, but that line that we will make America affordable again is one that certainly resonated with the crowd. Thank you both, Amy and Kate, for taking us through, not the papers this evening, but the Donald Trump speech.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little